Hello, Simone. I'm excited to be here with you today. Today we're going to be talking about a interesting thread by a personal in-person friend of ours, a guy we quite like, Cremieux. It was on crime statistics, and it focused on how very few people commit the vast majority of crimes.
Oh, yes.
We had talked about this in our episode on police, but I wanted to have a dedicated episode on this particular subject because I find it interesting, and I think he provides even more color than we had before. So I am going to go over his statistics, and I'm going to give you a chance to react to them, and I'm going to provide some additional information.
3 cheers for Cremieux. I love him.
All right. New York storefront businesses are already weathering inflation and uneven recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, are also contending with what the police say is a dramatic increase in shoplifting, but statistics reveal a startling reality. A relative handful of shoplifters are responsible for an outside percentage of retail crime. Nearly a third of all shoplifting arrests in New York City last year were just 327 people. Police say collectively they were arrested more than 6,000 times. So just 327 people arrested over 6,000 times. So, for example, that means in New York, 0.00385% of New York's population is responsible for 33% of the shoplifting in the city. Now, if you are a sane person, you might be thinking, why aren't those people in jail always? But it gets worse than that. This isn't unprecedented by any means. The number of burglaries in Leinster plummeted after 3 men died in a car crash. And I'm going to put an image on screen here of an article about this. It actually took me a bit to find how much it went down. It went down from 2019 to 2023 by 43%.
Ah, yikes.
And these, by the way, are 3 white-looking bro guys. So if you're like reading this and you're like, oh, this is like a black person thing or a Mexican thing. No, it's, depending on where you're living, it's just a criminality thing.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be when people make this their careers, then they just keep, especially if they discover that they can make it their career kind of sustainably and they don't really get in that much trouble for it. Of course, they're incentivized to keep going because it's easier than working. And they're probably in some kind of debt hole or crime hole that they can't get out of.
I disagree. That
Really?
doesn't appear to be what's happening. It appears to be mostly genetic. We'll get to that in a second.
Oh, no.
So, Cycling UK hails quote-unquote clever policing after bait bicycle used to track down 130,000 pounds of bike theft. A bike theft gang stole in one shift. Local bike theft fell 90% following the arrest, with 11 people now sentenced. So, arresting 11 people dropped bike theft in one British town by 90%.
Okay, yikes.
And this is where, like, there's a progressive meme of that guy who's like, well, this guy stole my bike, but, net, the world's probably happier now because he needed the bike more than I did. And, progressive brain rot of assuming the stabber is the victim and not the stabbee, of not having a sane mind and understanding that the vast majority of crimes are done by very, very few people who are career criminals and who are working for other career criminals, with that money generally going downstream to like big crime syndicates that are using it to terrorize grannies in Mexico. Like, no, nobody is benefiting from your bike being stolen. In fact, the world
it's
would
making things worse. Yeah.
Better off if whoever stole your bike, on average, if a bike thief was forced to kneel and executed on the spot, the world would be better off. There would be less pain and there would be less suffering.
Yeah.
That
kind of looks that way. Yeah. I mean, from these stats, oh gosh, this is terrible.
I'm not saying we need to start executing everyone who commits a crime. I'm just saying, think about it.
Just saying, please consider it. That's all you're saying.
All right, here's where it gets concerning here.
Okay, like it's not already immensely concerning.
Oh, no. This is, hold on, I'm just going to have a drink here so you can, because we're going to be talking about adoption studies.
No.
1% of adoptees whose biological parents had 3 or more offenses were responsible for 30% of convictions among adoptees. The 1% of adoptees whose parents had 3 or more convictions were responsible for 30% of the offenses among adoptees. If you stopped people with 3 or more convictions from having kids, the number of crimes in this country would drop
Oh
astronomically.
no.
I'm not saying
You're
that's what
entering
we should
Danger
do.
Town. This is
I'm
Danger
pointing out a
Town.
statistical fact. I am saying we shouldn't do this. That would be a horrible, horrifying thing to do. I'm just pointing out that the statistics say that the 1% of adoptees whose parents had committed 3 or more crimes committed over 30% of the crimes.
Wee woo. Danger. Oh God. They tried this. The PR disaster was.
It's not good for PR now.
This is so bad for PR. This is so bad.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, not great PR wise, but if you want to see how bad this would be, here I'm going to show a homicide rate graph.
Sure, show me the homicide rate graph.
Well, this is a homicide rate for the rate of criminality graph. So what it looks at is the homicide rate. So it's the homicide rate for people who've been arrested of other crimes and the homicide rate of non-criminals.
Okay.
If you look at non-criminals, the rate hovers around like 2 to 3%. If you look at the percent of people who've been convicted of other crimes, it's like between 10 and 7%.
Because of course it is. Of course it is. Of course. Yeah.
You are saving lives by executing that bike theft.
Yeah, this is really, it's making me reconsider. So I grew up in California where there was something called a 3 strikes law that was largely condemned. I mean, it put huge numbers of people in jail who, quite frankly, should not have been in jail. And I think a lot of that is because they were, there we go. I think a lot of that is because they were jailed for drug charges, like just possessing marijuana. Like that was enough for them to get 3 strikes and then just be in jail forever, which is super dumb. But now when I look at the level of committing crimes again and again, when they're damaging crimes that hurt, like possessing marijuana, dude, like this person's just chilling out for the most part. Okay. But then when you're shoplifting, when you're committing burglary, when you're committing aggravated assault, when you are, God forbid, killing someone, that's very different. That's where I feel like 3 strikes laws suddenly make a lot of sense, because if this is ultimately who's committing all the crimes, and it's clear that if someone has committed a crime twice, they're probably within that really small percentage of the population that's just going to keep doing it and really, really, really hurting society. Wow. I mean, it just makes so much sense. And now I'm getting really frustrated that the 3 strikes law was so poorly executed in California, which is probably seen as a major case study.
Like minor drug offenses instead of like thefts. If you
did it, because that's dumb. Of course, that's not a good idea. Like, who thought that was a good idea? And now anyone hears 3 strikes, they're like, that's a bad idea.
Democrats. Newsfeed thought it was a good idea. But hold on. Remember who was your head? No, sorry. Who was the head of your cops and legal department during that period? It was Kamala Harris. Someone who is when they said, "Oh, you smoked marijuana privately." This is someone who jailed thousands of people, tens of thousands of people for marijuana charges. She laughed when she was asked if she'd smoked marijuana privately.
But she laughs always. That's her thing. She laughs. Laughing is her favorite.
She laughs as if to imply, "Of course I am. I'm the elite. I get to do." Oh no,
that's what I would do as an autistic person who's just trying to.
Simone, she would have said no if the answer was no.
I don't know. Listen, honestly, like as someone who constantly is trying to look normal in public and just make people feel comfortable and happy, I imply a whole lot.
Simone, hold on. Have you smoked marijuana?
No.
Yes, you have. You must have.
No.
Are you actually? You haven't smoked marijuana?
No, I've never done any illegal drug ever, period. I've done fentanyl. That is in surgery. That is like only been in hospitals. And I've had Xanax. You're
arguing that Harris is as square as you and she doesn't want to admit it?
Yeah. She doesn't seem to me like the kind of person who would enjoy. Like,
I disagree. I think she's the type of person who caves to peer pressure. And whenever we're around our like billionaire friends or our otherwise like super successful friends, are always, this is fucking weird thing about life. Like, as an adult, I understand Dare so much more than as a kid. We go to Hereticon, they're like, free tattoo seminar every day. You want to go to your free tattoos today?
You should have gotten a tattoo ring. I'm just saying.
Or they'll say like, oh, you know, we hang out with our other like super wealthy friends. They're like, hey, you want to do drugs, man? Our normie friends never ask us to do this shit. They never.
Have you seen the tweet that went viral, which was a picture of RFK on Trump Force One eating McDonald's with Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and I think it was Don Trump Jr.
I love it.
There was like peer pressure.
Peer pressure. RFK, who hates McDonald's, of course he caved.
Yeah, he kind of had to. Yeah, no, rich people peer pressure is a real thing, but also I don't feel comfortable with like controlled substances like that because I don't know the exact dosage and provenance. Like I spoke about this with someone I won't name who has done a lot of psychedelics, but he has done them all with like Stanford researchers who have like lab grade psychedelics. And I would like
the guy who offered me psychedelics.
No, this is a guy. This is, but no, yeah, no, it was the person who was in our house when a deer was shot outside.
Oh, that guy?
It's the tornadic precursors guy who's like, but like in those scenarios, I would of course be comfortable. Well, I mean, we don't want to do psychedelics until we feel like we're less creative, but like I would be comfortable trying something else if I knew that it was, you know, I knew where it came from. I knew what the dosage was. I knew exactly what I was playing with, but I wouldn't just like, I don't know. It's akin to eating food off the floor. You don't know where that's been. I mean, okay, I eat food off the floor all the time now that I have kids, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like eating an ice cream cone that you found on the street in New York. I'm not doing that. That's gross. Even if a billionaire got it, I don't care. Gross.
All right, so I'll continue with this.
Please, God, yes. Go on.
Because you were talking about the 3-strike law. If the 3-strike law had been effectively enforced in Sweden, it would have reduced violent crime by half.
That's huge.
The 3-strike law is actually important in terms of reducing crime. And we as a country need to say, let's learn how to correctly implement it instead of it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
A few people with extensive criminal histories drive most crimes, arrests, etc. When it comes to the population that actually serves jail time, the reasons largely have to do with these people just being impulsive. And that's the end of the day. It is all about impulsivity. Recall that violent crime explains the largest part of the prison population and that getting in dumb fight explains most violent crime.
Yeah, and that's all about impulse control.
Most violent crime and even most homicides that are known were created by personal disputes. And after personal disputes, the next biggest one is group-related conflict. And after that, it is instant dispute. And after that, it is drug-related dispute.
Wait, what is instant dispute?
I think it's just like basically somebody pissed you off. And after that, it's robbery. Way down, robbery. And then what happens when you go past robbery? Domestic violence. Again, just poor self-control.
Yeah.
And then below that, retaliation or revenge.
That's a crime?
Well, when you murder someone, it is.
Oh, okay. These are causes for, okay. Yeah.
Not murder or assault. Like revenge isn't a crime in and of itself.
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
Or revenge is. Yes, Simone.
No, except for there was that one exception. I think it was in some Asian country where if you were a woman and your husband cheated on you, you had the right to legally kill him. I think you had to be with your bare hands, but you could kill him.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait. So if you murdered me with your bare hands, that was legal in that country?
My understanding was yes, that if you had proof that they cheated on you and you murdered them with your bare hands, you had a get out of jail free card with that. So I think what I would do as a wife in that scenario, if I cared about that and I wanted to kill my husband, is one, you get totally documented proof. You submit it to a lawyer. You make sure like the lawyer's like, yep, checks out. This is going to hold up in court. And then, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to strangle someone at night, like while they're sleeping. First, you sort of
I
restrain
don't
them.
think you'd be able to strangle me unless you drugged me or something first. I'm significantly
Dude, you
stronger.
are such a heavy sleeper. That's the problem.
Even so, I'd wake up in time. Simone,
I really
just look, you know how much stronger I am than you. Do you really
I'd have
think
to tie you to the bed or something, but
okay, you'd have to tie me to the bed. That
I'm
may
sure that there
work.
would be like a well-known collection, like in online forums of like, okay, if you're a wife in this country and you've been cheated on, you know, I'm like, there'd probably be specialized lawyers who had like kits, you know, like here's your, and also there
You
are
know, in
many
the
ways
US,
like
the best way to kill someone used to be on a cruise ship. Very easy way to kill
no,
someone.
but this again, I think that the rule in this country was that you had to kill them with your bare hands. Like you couldn't take a
I'm
firearm.
just saying because they're like different countries. We're not in that country. If you want to kill someone in this country, it's boats.
Well, yeah, why not get caught, right? Like you don't even have to like be worried about the legality of it because there's just a tragic boat accident. Yeah.
And it's considered an accident, and it happens to like a surprising number of people every year.
Yeah, like if you ever meet someone who's a family member or significant loved one died in a tragic boating accident, yeah, they're a murderer.
Yeah, no, in a tragic boating accident.
Yes, it's always a tragic boating accident. Yeah, if it was. You know,
well, for yachting accidents, of course, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I mean that is a great way to kill someone.
When we have one of our really old podcast episodes is about this.
Yeah, how you would kill me if you were going to kill me, and how I would kill you if I was going to kill you.
But I think that the answer that both of us came to is just boats.
No, I said icicle.
What, like
icicle? So you typically need a murder weapon, and
it melts. I get that, but like, how do you do it?
Well, so what you argue is that the icicle fell from a nearby building. This kills people all the time. All you need to do is stab someone with an icicle.
Oh, inside. Like, so they're asleep or something, and then you stab them from the right angle.
I wouldn't do that. That'd be too easy. I mean, you might even create like an ice shooting gun and then stab them where the gun wound was.
Just create an ice shooting gun. Like, that's so easy. Oh,
okay.
Of course. And then why don't we just, solve the housing crisis at the same time? Yes. And then perfect. Good. Done. I'm glad we had this conversation. The ice shooting gun.
So you put the ice through the wound. You can say, oh, this fell after they fell, and then it fell from up there. It melts the weapon. It melts the...
You put the ice through the wound that you created with another weapon?
Yes, because it
forensics is better than that. No, the ice has to be the weapon. So you create the ice shard. You supposedly, but see, you'd have to stab them from an angle that plausibly could have been a falling icicle. And then also you have to make sure that from within the home, like if you're not doing this on top of a plastic mat that you somehow dispose of later inside your home, you also have to remove all blood splatters. You have to remove it from your body. I mean, people bleed, people splatter. It's embarrassing and gross. That's why I'm not into murder. It's like too unhygienic. Well, yeah. Why don't you just like quiet quit in your relationship and let it fall apart the normal way? You know, like just do it the normal way. So or maybe
if we were going to get into robbery, okay? How would you do robberies?
Now, robbery is when you just take it from someone. Burglary is when you sneak in. Are we being burglars or robbers?
Okay, how would you do it? If we were going to make our money through criminality, how would you do it?
Oh, dude, like Office Space style, where you discover how to like shave a penny off of transactions in some way. Where like,
we don't have access to anything that we could put a
well, then step one is get access to something like that. I mean, I'm sure that there are billions of people in the federal government doing this every single day. It's called procurement.
You know, no. I think that you've hit on a huge under exploited arbitrage area of criminality, which is stealing from corporate offices that not many people are using anymore. I think there's a bunch of corporate offices that people barely visit anymore. They're really just there to tell investors.
Oh, it's all just like remote work. No. But people are starting to enforce in-office work again. I think largely at companies like Amazon because they got permission and huge tax breaks for these offices. in states that expected people to
No,
come into the
I don't
office.
disagree that companies like Amazon are doing this, but what I'm saying is that I bet there's a 10 to 25% of companies in the United States right now that are basically empty almost all the time.
Well, we know this when we host those dinner parties in New York and we're like in the 36th floor on Park
Yeah, because we
Avenue.
can look at the offices.
They're
There's
just all
easily
empty.
25% of
But
American companies.
here's
not
why
more.
I also feel like burglary is super dumb now, and I don't get it. Is this like, where's the secondary market for this? Are they selling it on Facebook Marketplace? You're not making a ton of money there. Like, who's buying this?
You would need to industrialize the scale of this.
Oh, and that's why there's like this huge Mexican cartel that sells all the bikes. Yeah, I guess you have to create you have to take it to scale.
Yeah,
So there has to
you
be like
scale.
some scale that you're going to take. What staples? You're going to sell the staples. You're going to sell old computers.
No, you don't sell the staples.
no
You
one
then
wants,
put
excuse
it
me.
all on like eBay or something, right? Pretty undifferentiated products.
Yeah. Maybe
You're
that's
not
what
going to make
Newegg
a
does.
ton, but if you do this at like, okay, you got to hire minimum wage workers, right?
Yeah.
But if you do this at all of the corporate parks, right? There are just so many of these.
Yeah. Maybe that's where AWS gets all its compute power. Maybe this is where Newegg gets all of its computers. Maybe this is already being done, you know? You always wonder.
I know. I bet half
computers
these
going?
places it's like dusty and old, and they don't have like new computers, and no one's been there. I genuinely think a lot of places are like only pretending to operate, and really no one has really worked for them since COVID.
Yeah, I wouldn't work in resale. I just feel like, oh, like getting product market fit. Like that's now you're just creating a business. Like just, I don't know, find something easier that doesn't get, that doesn't involve crime, because that's another liability. And that's uninsurable. I just wouldn't do it. So, okay.
You want to insure our crime business?
I don't know. I want to protect myself from downside risk. I think that, any responsible business owner, and this is why ultimately this is unfortunately coming back to this really uncomfortable conversation about, like, in the end, if you're dumb enough to do crime, it's typically because you don't have the processing power capable of thinking through all of the consequences. And therefore you do it because you aren't thinking about the downside risk. What
So
downside risk?
You don't do crime because you can't get insured. This is your...
No, because I'm thinking of the second and third and fourth and fifth order consequences. And my argument here, and the problem and the very inconvenient truth of crime, is that the people who commit crime maybe aren't capable of thinking through the second and third and fifth and seventh order consequences.
Okay, Simone. So you have to make your money through something that's illegal. What are you doing? Our family runs out of money. You're just like, I need money tomorrow. What are you doing?
I'm doing something legal, because if it's illegal, that your downside risk could take you from $0 to dead, to your family taken away from you. Like, just again, the downside risk, crime doesn't pay. I mean, crime pays some people, but then there's always, think about the guy who was a Dread Pirate Roberts. Huge respect for him. Read that biography, fantastic biography. Can't remember the name of it, that talks about his whole story, creating the Silk Road. He was very sloppy and made some very stupid early mistakes, but he was very smart, and he still got caught. And that sucks. Like, it's not
caught?
worth it.
How do you get caught?
Trying to remember. It was a sting operation. Someone that he trusted ultimately got close to him and was able to reveal enough information. And then he was also found in a library. They were able to get him to a library. He was found.
A library to do what? How did that confirm it was him?
Oh God, I can't, honestly, if my memory's so bad, if it's not useful to me, I don't remember it. He had to be at a library with the laptop with all the incriminating information, and that's where they had to catch him. They had to lure him out there, but I can't remember exactly how and why they did that. But it was incredibly smart.
If you're curious like me on this particular point, I decided to look this up and edit in post. Ulrich made several critical errors that led to his identification. He used the name Altoid to announce Silk Road on a Bitcoin forum, and later used the same username to ask for programming help, providing his personal email address. Both Ulrich and Dead Pirate Roberts were vocal supporters of libertarian economist Ludwig von Mises, with Ulrich's public Google Plus account linking to related videos. Oh, getting busted for a Google Plus account. They seized seized a server in Iceland that gave access to personal chat logs. They traced some of his activity to a cafe in San Francisco near his residence. The final trap, October 1st, 2013. They monitored public places with free Wi-Fi, like San Francisco's Glen Park neighborhood. Ulrich was observed leaving his apartment and entering Glen Park Branch Library. An undercover agent posing as a Silk Road administrator engaged Judge Robert in an online chat. When Ulrich logged into the Silk Road administrator account, FBI agents in the library moved in and arrested him. To prevent Ulrich from encrypting and deleting his files, agents created a distraction while another seized his laptop. But here's what I would ask.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. The head of a Mexican cartel dies, you end up taking over because they find out that you're the long lost.
Then I like legitimize their business. I'm like, all right, we're firing these people. Like, I am gonna have to kill people.
Kill you if you did that. No. You have to run their existing operation.
Okay.
Where are the arbitrage opportunities within the criminal market right now? I think you'd be the most ruthless and effective criminal boss I have ever seen.
Aw, thank you. That's sweet. No, I think honestly, a lot of women would be really effective criminal bosses.
One of the heads of the Mexican cartels right now is a woman.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all, even remotely. But I think it's one of those things also, I think, where a big problem you get in many industries, like the fashion industry, for example, is it attracted, like much of the talent it attracts is just kind of dumb talent that doesn't really understand fashion or business dynamics and just is like, oh, it's pretty, it's high status. And they go there and they kind of mess everything up. And then when you get someone who goes in there and has a business mind, they just clean up. And often they don't give a shit about fashion. Like when you look at how some key people at Vogue dress, they like wear like black sack clothing because they don't care. Like they can't be bothered. And then they kind of dictate how everyone else dresses. Or I mean, that's how it used to be. Now, of course, fashion has very different industry dynamics and market dynamics, but yeah, I think the core thing is understanding the underlying dynamics and the 4D game of chess and not actually caring about the thematics of the thing. And I think to a great extent, crime is like, it's like a search fund. So search funds or like down market private equity is what we were into. And it was all about finding inglorious markets that were undermanaged, that had a lot of people operating them who could, with smarter operations and better connections, make a lot more money. And to a great extent, I think crime is a lot like that. It's stuff that people just don't want to deal with. And then they find there's a market opportunity and they make money from it.
So here's my question for you. If you're choosing between one of two styles, because the existing cartels that sort of fight have one of two styles. Like one cartel, they try to do everything pretty business-like and be on good terms as much as they can with the local population. And the other major cartel just basically kills anyone who opposes them.
Yeah.
Which side, how would you handle opposition if you were running a cartel?
I would be the former, and I would probably step in. Here's where I guess if we're talking good tailwinds, right, is to become what government has failed to be. So like vigilante, so like they will just go in and kill people who shoplift multiple times, like just dead. They will be the ones to be law enforcement when law enforcement literally doesn't have the right.
So when the U.S. starts to collapse, you will start a criminal organization that upholds
that upholds the law. And of course, it needs protection money. Like it does take tax.
Not protection money, taxes.
Yeah, taxes. But like, yeah, basically like the government, like work with me here, like. Imagine a government, but it works.
Manhattan needs a second.
No, but like that's the thing is, this is literally what kings were. Kings were the ones who like were able to create enough societal stability and order where like you would become the clan chieftain or you'd become the king. And then like suddenly like civilizations spring up and then you have a legitimate government and suddenly you're not a criminal anymore. You're respected and you wear your robes and you're so like fancy and you have your like hood and like yeah, that's what I would do. I would create civilization and it would start out illegal and very violent because it would need to be, I guess. What would you do? Would you be the nice or the mean?
I actually think you do need a certain level of ruthlessness to maintain operations in a region like this. I think that,
like what? America? New York? A CVS?
Even New York, I think what you need to have is hard lines in the sand that
Okay.
cannot be adjudicated by on the ground people, or they will abuse these lines in the sand.
Mm.
However, you do need some sort of system for adjudication, which is fairly good at deciding. It doesn't need to be perfect, 80%. And if somebody crosses one of these lines, execution. And I think outside of that, things like incarceration, especially long-term incarceration and government
Mhm.
systems for like the death penalty, are really silly. They're very, very, very expensive. Government death penalty actually costs more than keeping someone in jail for their entire life. So we need to make these systems more efficient and more extreme.
Well, you'll probably want to take your own life. Here, you'd better have this.
And I think that you would quickly see many people living better lives, both because they're not dying due to the, as we've pointed out, the criminal individuals end up killing lots more people. But
2 words, Malcolm. Penal colonies. Say it with me. I mean,
here's a question I ask you about the adoption study. I mean, what are your thoughts on sterilization?
I mean, it's maybe sterilization is making a comeback. There was that one Japanese politician who thought that one way to boost fertility in Japan was to force sterilization on Japanese women who didn't have children by the age of 30.
I actually agree with that. People need to understand their fertility windows, and I think
he's getting on something, but he's sort of modeling it. There are 2 things that he's touching on here that have a lot of weight. One is people have to be aware of their fertility windows. 2 is people won't appreciate the value of life until they understand just how fleeting and rare and difficult to achieve it is. And he's getting at that, but he's getting at it the wrong way. Threatening people with sterilization is not the way.
And this is where we hit, I mean, speaking of fertility windows, this is where I hit onto a very interesting fact recently that you and I have been talking about. We might do an episode on, which is Black American, African American fertility windows are significantly smaller than any other ethnic group.
Yeah, what on earth? No, we need to research this way more, though. I really want to understand what's going on. That is
basically
scary.
If you're a Black woman, you need to have kids much earlier than other ethnic groups before your fertility collapses.
Yeah.
And because our society doesn't talk about ethnic differences and things like fertility windows, like we just completely ignore this. And so a lot of Black women are like trying to get pregnant in their 30s, and they're like, wait, Black women are sterile by the time they're 30? I will note here that this isn't the way the science investigates this problem. They would just say that Black women are twice as likely to experience infertility than white women. They would then go on to say Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with uterine fibroids, which can affect fertility. And they would say that IVF outcomes are much lower success among Black women than white women, without attempting to just lower the age at which they're having kids, because of course then we would be admitting that there are actual medical ethnic differences between individuals. For example, Black kids gestate for much less than white kids. But we can't talk about any of this for whatever weird reason, which is obviously having really deleterious effects on the Black population. I can see why from a progressive mindset it would be horrifying if it got out that if you're a Black woman and you want to have kids, you need to do it in your 20s if you want to have the same shot as a white woman who's doing it in her 30s. And it's like, yeah, it turns out that that's about the case. And this explains, I think, why if you are not in the bottom, I think it's like 15% or 18% of income of the Black population, you have a lower fertility rate than any other ethnic group in the United States.
That is wild. We have to dig deeper on, though. This is going to be a really interesting episode. We have to do it because that's so scary. And yeah, talk about like double-sided attack. One, you have Planned Parenthood, which was like designed for like Black genocide.
So what she means here is that the person who founded Planned Parenthood worked with the KKK. She said the goal of the organization was to remove genetically undesirable people from the United States population. It very clearly targeted Black populations. Even today, 83% of Planned Parenthood clinics are in majority minority neighborhoods. And the Black population of the US would be a quarter higher if Planned Parenthood didn't exist.
Yeah, so this is like one end of like aborting disproportionately Black babies in the United States. And then there's this other end of like, oh my God, wait, and their fertility window seems to be disproportionately shorter just for whatever
Well,
reason.
this is just like, you know, a key for dysgenics, right? Like, what I mean is it disproportionately means that the individuals in the community who are like, if you're like, okay, so why is wealthy Black fertility
Well, yeah,
so
people
low?
who are being,
Well,
I guess,
wait.
responsible, waiting until they have enough money and enough a
Yeah.
home and all these other things that are impossible to get these days. And then they're ready. And then suddenly they can't have kids. This is horrible. Yeah. And then yeah. Anyway, 3 strikes laws. Definitely in favor.
Okay,
No
Malcolm.
low-level drug offenses. What are you guys doing? Like the war on drugs. What a mistake that was.
No, Trump's actually ramping up the fentanyl stuff, and I really agree with it.
No. I get that. I'm referring to like the 90s war on drugs where you go to jail for
Trump,
having
we might do
pot.
a separate episode on this. He wants to make it a death penalty offense to be selling drugs.
Yeah, and for human trafficking too.
And for human trafficking. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all down for that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I understand about having like really strict rules, but again, this concept of like possessing drugs means that you go to jail is incredibly stupid. I'm not at all for that. And I don't know. I mean, also like death penalty for selling drugs. I don't know. I think that's not well advised. That is not an optimal decision. I think that what we really need to be focused on is getting hard on repeat crimes that are actively damaging to social stability. And yes, drug sale and consumption is a threat, but not as much as like shoplifting and aggravated assault, murder, abuse, things like that. Like that is a bigger fish to fry. And once we have those under control, I'm happy to look at drugs. But to a certain extent, I do think that the masses need an opiate, like quite literally, based on where society is going. And essentially what's happening, Malcolm, is, and we've talked about this, a huge portion of society is euthanizing itself. And I believe in euthanization that is humane.
Yeah.
And I think that people being allowed to essentially euthanize themselves with a pain dulling medication or you know, a sort of suffering dulling medication is the empathetic and fair thing to do for people who've been essentially ruined by society and by the woke mind virus or whatever you want to call it. No, seriously, Malcolm, like it's not cool to ruin a bunch of people, to effectively neuter them. They're not going to have families. They're living in debt. They're not going to have meaningful lives.
So
and then to be like, oh, and by the way, you don't get drugs now.
Is what you're saying.
Huh?
You want to euthanize the woke people.
They're euthanizing themselves. They're dead men walking. I just don't want them to suffer any more than they have to.
No. I've never been a fan of euthanasia. They're lazy and they're communists.
They're neats.
No,
They're
sorry.
lying flat.
It's
The
a
euthanasia.
joke.
I know.
Naked Gun, I'll put the scene here.
Yeah.
They asked the president, go, Mr. President, what's your views on euthanasia? And he goes, they're lazy and they're communists. You heard youth in Asia?
I know. I got your dad joke the first time.
Shut up.
I love you.
You need to shut up, Simone. You're a terrible wife and a bad mother, and I am sick and disgusted to have married you.
Speaking of which, I'm going to try to make a Dutch baby tonight. So more air fried, breaded, karahi seasoned chicken, but I wanted to make a Dutch baby, and you can tell me if this appeals to you. Because there's this dude who does these shorts that I'm like, this
might sound a little bit weird, but here's how you can make a Dutch baby.
Hold on.
Dish.
Why is my YouTube totally broken? If I can restart it, because I feel like you would like this, and it seems really simple, and maybe even the kids will like it. And so let's
show me.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Is your phone not working anymore? Do we need a new phone?
No, God, we need to stop buying things. No more. There we go.
This might sound a little bit weird, but here's how you can make a Dutch baby. Really good brunch dish. Cast iron pans are the best for this, so get a 10-inch one. Place it in the oven to preheat at 125 degrees, about 20 minutes. And the best part of this recipe is that you can do it all in the blender. So if you're a human, you got this. And if you're not a human, I'll be there in 5. 3 should have been chickens. 1.5 cups all-purpose flour, half a cup of good milk, 2 tablespoons of that sap syrup, a bit of ocean, and a really good vanilla bean paste. For all my visual learners, this is the consistency you're looking for. 20 minutes later, add some butter to the hot skillet and swish it around. Add in the batter and put back into the oven for an additional 20 to 25 minutes, or until the edges become golden brown, kind of like this brown Guatemalan man. That is literally an absolute beaut. I add a little bit of Parmesan and prosciutto just to get that sweet and salty element. Cheers. Wow, fluffy,
Where's the meat?
aerated, salty and sweet.
Does not look good. Well, no, it'd just be
This is
separate,
amazing
like in
bite.
addition to the
Literally.
chicken, like as a
Yeah,
side.
that works. Try it.
Okay, it'll have to be tomorrow. I was gonna make it tonight, but I needed an hour to do that since it's a.
Oh
40
yeah,
minute.
don't worry about it. Hey, look, Simone, use the air
Cornmeal
fryer
muffins.
one- What?
What do you want as your starch with this? Fried rice?
Yeah, if you could make fried rice, it'd go really great with air fried chicken, especially if you can turn some veggies and cut them up a bit.
Yeah, you know it,
With the coconut rice?
with the coconut rice.
Oh, you are my sweetheart.
You are my special sun pony.
My special sun pony. Oh
very
no.
You're a very special sun pony. Life is good. All right. Yeah. 3 strikes. Good. Drugs.
I want to
important.
strike criminals 3 times.
Everyone's allowed 3 hits like a pinata. That's the 3 strikes rule.
That's
But
the
only
strikes.
3. Only 3. Everyone has a baseball bat, a government issued baseball bat, and you have 3 strikes.
Have a spectacular day, Simone.
I love you. You too.
I love you too.
Okay.
Let's go. Get in there. And then I would actually shoot. And then it does send out this hour. And then it sits down already. Then I gotta put that in. And then I gotta. Whoa! And then I gotta do this. And then that's how you set it up. Okay? When I pull the trigger, it suits. So want to see how it suits? And then I'm like, and then oh no, that bullet.
Who are you talking to, Octavian?
I don't know.
Well, who's in the box?
I don't know his name again. I really don't know.
Is he your friend?
Yes, I think. I don't know his name. Can you tell me?
Why don't you ask what his name is?